The Republican National Committee launching the campaign called Fire Harry Reid. The movement targets 12 states with robocalls in addition to social media. Here to discuss this push to change the Senate, the chairman of the Republican National Committee, Reince Priebus. Mr. Chairman, thanks for Skyping in from Washington here on America's Forum.
Thank you, Congressman. Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Well, Reince, let's talk about this thing. Fire Harry Reid. Now, a campaign in 2010, Fire Nancy Pelosi seemed to work. Guess you guys are thinking a variation on that theme can work in this midterm.
Well, I think it has to. I mean, in order for us to start functioning and getting some of these bills through, as you know, over 300 bills are sitting in Harry Reid's desk, and the president's out there campaigning about obstruction and the Republican Party. And, you know, we have to highlight, I think, for the American people, the fact that, in fact, it's the House that's passing hundreds of bills to get people back to work. And it's Harry Reid that isn't even grabbing onto even the most simple bills like this Skills Act, which is connecting people to job training. And, you know, we're talking about, yeah, there's some big things, obviously, like Keystone Pipeline, but there are some bills here sitting on his desk that most normal people in America would read and say, well, what's the problem with this? So, look, I think that we've got to get a Republican Senate. Obviously, then I think we can start boxing the president in on some of these bills. And then, obviously, if he doesn't want to at least do some things that are reasonable next year, then obviously we have to win the White House. So Harry Reid stands in the way, Congressman, and no person knows more about all of that than you do. But seriously, I think we need to make it a part of the campaign here for the fall and illustrate to the American people that who controls the Senate is important to what actually happens here in Washington, D.C.
And to that end, you're headed up the block to the United States Capitol to kick off this campaign this afternoon. But speaking of the word campaign, I noticed you use that in connection with President Obama. And it's interesting with the campaigning the president continues to do. A new Fox News poll has come out, and it says voters are saying the president needs to stay off the campaign trail. Here's the question asked. If you were running for office as a Democratic candidate this year, would you want President Obama to campaign for you? 41% of respondents said yes, 57% said no. You couple that with the continued fundraising. What do you think this portends for the Obama White House?
Well, it's not good, JD, and here's the other reason, and I think obviously the listeners understand that it's not just the fact that we're running in a pretty good year for Republicans, but we're running in states that the president didn't win 41% in 2012. I mean, keep in mind these races in Alaska and Montana and South Dakota and Arkansas, West Virginia. I mean, these are places that in a good year for the president, he's not very popular, let alone when he's actually not popular in a good year for us. So, yeah, you wouldn't want to campaign with the president, but that's why the Democrats are trumping up all of this stuff like this impeachment campaign. And, you know, they're actually using this stuff in order to make money. Perhaps maybe smart move, but the reality is that the president's not popular. He's going to drag down the Democrats this year. And what we're trying to do, Congressman, is also highlight the fact that we've passed some bills here that are of substance and that people would want us to pass in Washington to get people back to work, and that there's a positive Republican agenda. It's not just, you know, how awful the president is, which he is pretty awful as far as leading this country, but it's also a Republican agenda that I think makes sense for the American people.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I want to go back to that graphic real quickly because it's very damning for the president and I think for Democrats as well. But considering you're trying to target Harry Reid, wouldn't a better target be the actual Obama administration, folks like Eric Holder, who's very unpopular, John Kerry, who's got a lot of egg on his face based on his foreign policy endeavors, the mid-level bureaucrats at the VA, Gina McCarthy over at the EP, actual folks who are in the Obama administration.
Go on and on, John.
Yeah, I know that these folks are in the administration, folks who can actually be fired, not voted out of office like Harry Reid can by the voters of Nevada.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. And I think what you're seeing is we're trying to walk and chew gum at the same time. Obviously, I think it's about Barack Obama. It's about Harry Reid. It's about the actual candidates that are on the ballots in these states. But it's also about the Republican agenda. I think it's all of that combined. I think you're right, John. There's really no better indicator in a lot of these states as far as a general uh, poll question as far as whether the president's popularity is right side up or upside down. And what you're seeing is that even in states like Oregon and Minnesota, that the president's popularity is upside down, which then puts those races in play. I mean, it's a correlation that no one can deny. And I think you're right. But at the same time, I think we also want to show the American people that when it comes to this ridiculous rhetoric from the president, which is the Republican obstructionism, which is his favorite thing to say, that it's all bogus. And that the reality is that when you get 330 bills coming out of the Republican House, which some people would argue is too much, but in other words, 300 bills sitting, where are they sitting? They're sitting on Harry Reid's desk. So if the president was worried about obstruction, he should walk down the street and go to the Senate side chamber and walk into Harry Reid's office and say, what's going on? Get something going. So it's all just bogus stuff, and we're just trying to call the president and everyone else out on the carpet on it.
Reince, you mentioned a word a little while ago, the I word. You just glossed over it, impeachment. Now, it's interesting, in D.C., suddenly all the impeachment talk seems to be coming from the Democratic National Committee. What's going on? Are they trying to get Republicans to go into that briar patch?
No, I think that they know I mean, the Republicans aren't in that briar patch, but they have figured out a way to raise some money on their side of the aisle. So they're talking about impeachment all the time. You turn on MSNBC and they're analyzing why would the Republicans be, and it's all, Josh Earnest and the White House and the Democrats that are talking up this game. It's a way to raise money, and they do a pretty good job out of it, and they put up with it, and they could sort of get their own joke, and they play along, and MSNBC joins in.
Well, let's follow that just a little bit, because we just had Louis Gohmert on, and he's pointing out the president apparently prepared to move unilaterally to declare amnesty for people coming into the country. Obviously, the president has overstepped his bounds in many areas, whether it's the proposed amnesty or Obamacare or you name it. So, Mr. Chairman, what should be done in terms of the legislative branch using its powers to stop the president from unlawful actions?
Well, look, I think Speaker Boehner's got the right idea in going to court. I think he's got standing. I think Article 1, 2, and 3 is pretty clear on the separation of powers doctrine. In fact, and I know you're on top of this very heavily, JD, but the Supreme Court struck the president down 13 times over the last, 3 years, and I think 20 times over the course of his presidency, which includes his own appointees to the Supreme Court. They're going to pay a dear price for this overreach. Obviously, the American people are tired of it. I think for the first time in a long time in a lot of the polling, you're seeing people's frustration with government growth and federal overreach. I mean, this is a sophisticated topic, and it's reaching across the board out there in middle America. So I think elections have a lot to do with setting the course straight, and I think you're going to see that in the midterm. And obviously, I think we're going to hopefully ride this into being a party that just doesn't win a midterm, but is a party that figures out how to win a presidential election as well.
Reince, the last question for you, about a minute left to go. Yes or no answer here. You can do that or not. But will we hear more from people running for re-election about using the power of the purse, less about impeachment, less about this lawsuit, because the power of the purse seems the most immediate option available to Congress to stop the president?
Well, I think so. I mean, I think you have to. That's a case you have to make day in and day out. And when you're campaigning in a congressional district, when you're campaigning in a state every single day, you get to the substance and the meat of the problem, which is the fact that our government just spends too much dang money, doesn't obviously taxes too much, and obviously you can look at where we're heading for debt and unfunded mandates and everything else, and the case has to be made, and candidates have to be smart enough to articulate that on a daily basis.
And we'll have to leave it right there. Chairman Reince Priebus of the Republican National Committee, thanks very much for your time. Fighting continues.